My friends say I'm one of the most sexual people they've ever met.
Yeah, I have heard that.
I'm gonna hit the sack.
I'm gonna get some shut-eye. Yeah.
A root bed that's trying to strangle you in the middle of the night.
And your dreams, and it's magic, magic, magic.
In this episode, some of our discourse concerns orthodox theology and praxis. While we are continually committed to exploring these topics with discretion and care, it is crucial to emphasize that none of our discussions constitute formal teaching or carry any authoritative weight whatsoever. If you have questions or concerns about any aspect of the Orthodox faith, please talk to your priest. Our podcast serves as a platform for open dialogue and exploration, but personal spiritual discernment and, most of all, guidance from a spiritual father are paramount.
It is later than you think.
Okay. Well, you can fire it up then. Oh, okay.
Oh.
It's that face.
Yeah, but anyway, he was just upset. This person was upset that his close friend tends to be a bummer about the way that he rejects the world. And I'm like, bro, if the monastic life might be a little bit more tailored for him.
Yeah.
And people say here's the thing. I don't have a problem with people giving cop-out answers because not everybody has to perfectly understand everything. You can just use a little bit of a freaking heuristic and
what that means.
I think it means it's like toady. Doesn't that mean no?
Toady.
A heuristic is like whenever you're making, it's like an algorithm. It's like you're making a decision process quicker and shorter, right? So you don't have to think through the entire thing. You just whatever. Mm-hmm. I may not be using it perfectly.
It's like a rubric, like a Rubik's Cube.
Problem solving, but in a quick way. Cube. Like if I have a heuristic, so it's like you're running a calculation in your brain. If you went around all day, every day, and thought through every single decision of should I take this step or whatever? No, you have a heuristic to be if there's a thing in my way, I move around it.
Okay,
you
it's
know
a
what
rule.
I'm saying?
It's a if this then that type of rule.
Yeah,
or more complex something. Yeah.
So you can do that. What I'm saying is I think it's okay to just kind of have some of those. Not a lot. You can't depend on it and have all of your answers be cop-out answers. But if you really don't know and you haven't set, you don't have the time or the capacity or the IQ or the energy to sit and explore all of these complex, difficult, mysterious type questions why shouldn't everybody be a monastic?
Mm-hmm.
And well, should I read the lives of the saints and it makes me feel bad about how I'm living my life. I'm married and I have a big house and all of this stuff. That's a very common thing to feel after reading these people who sell all of their worldly goods and literally give their entire life. Obviously, that's a good example for us. And if we did that, that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll just hear this answer from people who whatever, and they'll say, not everybody's called to a monastic life.
Yeah.
Enough said. Now, you might be more curious than that and be like, okay, why not? Isn't it better? Shouldn't everybody do their best? But you're just kind of I know you're not doing it to be difficult.
Yeah.
But you would do that because you're not satisfied with a half answer. Or an answer that doesn't explain the why. Anyway, my point is that person who tends to go overboard with well, I don't watch these movies. I don't watch any movies because they all have bad themes. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is being completely really looking forward to the next Doom movie coming out, Doom 2.
Doom? You're saying Doom. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll let it go. I can live
where that
with
girl has the mustache, the snot mustache that's tucked into her ear or something.
Yeah.
It's the other end of the spectrum is just unabashedly. What does unabashedly mean?
Oh, you are putting me on the spot.
Unashamedly?
Right.
That's bashful? Does it related to the word
probably
bashful?
Related. Probably same.
Unabashedly.
Same roots. Yeah.
Anyway, the other person just indiscriminately consuming all of the media content without giving it even a second thought and just letting it soak into his freaking alpha wave brain. You know what I
soak
mean?
into his algorithm. And okay, yeah. So I see what you're saying, and
So
I agree
right
with that.
in the middle is like, okay, I think you can watch movies that are pumped out of Hollywood and laugh and enjoy and appreciate the art, and also have your little spectacles on of like, well, yeah, they're actually, yeah, Neo is like a type of Antichrist, and Agent Smith is this, and the Matrix is that, or whatever. Like, you can put that on, and you can enjoy the movie, and you can watch it, but be careful whenever, like, if there's like scenes that give you a little bit of horny bits, right? Because then you're like, you can choose to not, you know what I mean? Like, it's he's gay. It's this constant thing. It's this constant, like,
Dude,
you
going
can't
in blind, dropping all these references without
you can't
explanation
just
is
you
what
can't
gets me.
just you can just do the straight and narrow, but I think that there's a battle in the middle, and it's okay to be in the midst of the battle.
You
and
know,
be like,
let me add my little 2 cents. The difficulty at trying to explain this on a podcast is we have many viewers watching, and we can't say how it is for you, or I can't say for you, you can't say for me. It really is true. As cliched as it sounds, it's not a one size fits all. This is why it's between you and the Lord, and you and your spiritual father, and the Lord, and you and your wife, and the Lord, and you a year ago, and you in the future, etc. Those are it really is going to morph and change. And so if somebody ask you for advice, well, do I need to be this one guy on one side of the spectrum, or the other guy on the other side of the spectrum? Most of the time you have to give that non-answer. That's very frustrating for the type of person you were talking about earlier that they think that the world works as if they can just discover what the heuristic is, the universal one that they can count on. Then that way they can have plausible deniability, or that's not really what I'm looking for.
they like rules, and they like it to
they
be
want
a
to know they're
simple,
inside
like,
the bounds.
yeah, they
right.
want everything to be black and white.
But the biggest things in life, you're not going to get off that easy. You're not going to be like, oh, if I
You're not going to get your rocks off that easy.
yeah. And so, yeah, I feel like this episode.
Where are we taking it?
Well, I'll tell you where we're taking it. I think it's time. We got a few under our belt, and I think it's time to ask that age-old question: is the world cursed?
It's cursed world.
It's
problems.
cursed world problems,
baby. And
Podcast.
I'm Colin.
And I'm not. Sorry, I was just trying to do something just like cool or mysterious. Can we
Yeah.
try that one again?
Be like a little bit aloof.
Yeah.
What does aloof mean?
I'm Colin, and I don't know all the words.
Any of the words that I use.
Yeah.
No,
Let's
here's
go.
the thing. Here's the thing. I think many will agree. I try not to use words I don't know, right? However, if I'm 90% confident what they mean, like, it's not like I'm sitting around looking up definitions all the time. Sometimes I will. Once a year, maybe. But most of the time, if I have a word that I think I know how to use, I'll use it. But I also don't want to pretend like I know. So I'm happy to admit, well, what does that actually mean? Is that the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that usually solves the problem, where I'm like being a little bit humble because I'm admitting that I don't quite know.
Yeah.
But I'm also not just I don't think most of the time whenever I use a word like that, I'm pretty close to what I'm trying to say.
What about every time
Except for uncanny. I thought uncanny mean it looks the same.
No.
Because people use it like that.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Father and son, it's uncanny. That's
Right.
like that's how you hear it 80% of the time.
Yeah.
But it really just means like mysterious or something, like unexplainable.
Oh, it means like bizarre,
Yeah.
right? It means like
unexplainable, I think is what the
giving you a jarring sensation or feeling is what I thought. Like uncanny is like there's not a category for it, or there's not a reference point in your head. You look at it and you're like, that makes me feel strange.
Yeah.
That's what I thought uncanny was.
No.
Look, pull that up.
No, he said it's unexplainable.
Mysterious or impossible to explain.
That's what I said though.
You said just gives you like a jarring. What did you say?
I was saying how
No,
mysterious
we're really
it
going to
is.
sit here and go through the rigmarole. I don't think we should.
When I say the world is cursed, or is the world cursed? When I say the world, I'm trying to. Let's start that over. Let's start the whole episode over. Is the world cursed? Oh, you ask me.
Say, Joss, is the world cursed?
It's cursed world.
What
problems.
would you say is your favorite between World War I and World War II?
War? I think World War II because I like just a lot of the characters. One in particular. But World War One, I don't know anything about.
Trench warfare, trench foot,
Trench foot, trench coats.
bomb, shell shock,
Okay.
1,000-yard stare.
So World War One was when they first started realizing that like it'll mess you up.
Yeah, World War I was that.
Yeah, and World War
Dysentery,
Two they
lots of
started to like
dysentery.
it. They're like dysentery
I
Gary.
say I almost like it. Yeah.
Who say that?
Did you know that? Did you know that Hugo Boss designed the uniforms for? Never mind.
Okay.
So,
Did you know that
what
Giorgio?
are we talking about today?
Listen, seriously, did you know Giorgio Armani did the wardrobe for the movie The Untouchables, which came out in 1997 and starred Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro, who was playing Al Capone, and Sean Connery was also in the movie. And those are the main pertinent facts that I can think of. But here's another one, a little fun fact for you. That movie sucked to high heaven.
You know what other movie sucked? Analyze This with
You
Billy
watched that?
Crystal and also Robert De Niro.
Robert, you're thinking of Robert De Niro and
Robert DiGiorno.
Bruce Willis.
No.
The whole 9 yards.
No, The Longest Yard with Angie Sandberg.
The 9th yard.
Angie Sandberg. Angie Sandler.
Angie Sanford was in the whole 9 yards, and it was about how the blacks and the whites in prison like to play football together.
Blacks versus whites again. Oh no, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm getting that magical feeling.
So seriously, it's been a while, but they don't know that.
Yeah, we're so rusty, dude. Oh, by the way, for the folks at home,
For the folks at home,
can you get that light so we can just get spooky real quick? Hey, how's it look?
and then get that light. Yep. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Welcome to the Halloween special episode of Curse Word Prab. Curse Word Prabs.
Cursed word crossword problem.
Crossword problems.
All right. So, but seriously,
Should we do it this way? Are you okay with that? Are you okay
this
with
is
that?
cool. It looks good.
Nice. We'll
This
do
is
one
the
episode.
new vibe.
We'll do
No,
one.
I think this should be all the vibes every time.
Okay, we'll do one Halloween episode just as a test run.
Test run, and we'll see how it turns out. But I think this could be the new dark vibe. We're the Dark Brothers now.
Oh, I don't have one.
So speaking of being wary of media that you consume through your eyes, consume through your ears.
Wary like werewolf.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Speaking of being wary, how wary ought one to be of music that makes you feel a certain way? I actually there was a I've been watching Orthodox Roots, I think is the YouTube channel that's been popping up on my algo on YouTube, and this very not very soft spoken, but I would say like a 4 out of 10 soft spoken, bald head, big beard man. Really good speaker, really good humble
pull him up.
approach to everything. He's not saying anything hard. He's not saying anything that's like a hard teaching, but he is firm. He's not going to back down. Anyway, he was talking about that dude,
Let me see him.
Timothy Pavlatos.
Oh, so both of those are roots of orthodoxy. There's 2 priests at least that are in it.
Well,
Is the guy on top? Oh,
yeah, there's a few. It must
Nice.
just be them going
They just
around to
interview them.
different. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, he was the question that was punted to him was it was not quite this simple, but it was basically, should Orthodox Christians listen to secular music, or where's the line with listening to secular music? And it was some typical stuff that you would expect, like, the time that you spend listening to whatever could be used for things that are going to make you feel whatever. But he said, pay attention to how it makes you feel. It stirs up passions. It stirs up emotions. It stirs up memories of your old self. It stirs up desires that wouldn't be there if it weren't for the spell that you're casting with the song that you're playing, right?
Whoa, okay.
Now juxtapose that with what time spent in prayer or reading spiritual books or reading scripture stirs up in you. Enough said. And it's like, what do you want? It's this very similar to some like really hard-nosed like personal trainer guy whose job it is to get you out of bed and to defeat your inner wussy. He would say, you must not want it enough. Whenever you start to say, I don't think I can do it, coach. Oh, coach, I don't think geez, coach, they got me on these pills, bro. I don't think I can do it. And he would say,
leg.
You don't want it bad enough. I'm out of here. And you say, no, I really want it. Oh, clearly you don't want it because you're making a decision contrary
so who are you
to
comparing that to?
This dude saying, what do you want to feel like? What does the real you, what does your most sober-minded self want for yourself? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be stirred up? Do you want your passions to be stirred up? Or do you want your...
Can I cut in then?
Yeah.
My question is, this is going to get deep, and you don't have to answer it. I don't have to answer it here, but I think a lot of people, if they live life the way I've lived life, and they got these deep questions, and the questions themselves are kind of amorphous, and you don't know if you're asking the right questions because you don't know if your lens is already blurred. But the question you were asking, what do you want? What does your true sober self want? And my question in response, the question of the heart is, what should I want? So a deep desire of mine is to do right, to be obedient to what's right. But you got a lot of messaging that's not so obviously good and godly or so obviously villainous and worldly. And for example, before we kick this episode off, I was talking to you about how I used to read John Eldredge books before I even knew anything about orthodoxy, and I was just kind of non-denominational, like emotional Christian, but I wasn't big into the charismatic, Pentecostal type stuff because I didn't know whether I should or shouldn't be. It's just not where I found myself naturally ending up in those circles, but a little bit, right? I didn't know anything about theology or church history or any of that stuff, but I enjoyed John Eldredge. Wild at heart.
He said there's no rules.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I listened to this song that said there's no rules. You think that that's true? No. He basically, there was a book called The Way of Desire, or I think maybe they changed the title after they released the second edition or something. It was just called Desire. And it was this common refrain throughout the book that desire is a thing that God has placed in you. And it's not something to fight or to be scared of or anything like that. And he totally never gave any caveats, or he was like, here's what I mean by that and here's what I don't mean.
Yeah, because I don't think on its face, I don't think it's necessarily wrong.
I think if you read the book now, and if I read the book now, I'd say a lot of this is extremely
without
misguiding.
Explanation.
Right,
I
but
think
a lot
that
of
there
it
are
is
things like that are natural. So on the most simple level, people will be like sex is wrong or whatever. The desire, after you're married, people still struggle with feeling dirty, right? Dirty, feeling nasty, baby. Yeah.
Well, we could get into that conversation too, because it's not a binary. It's not.
Yeah, sure, but I'm saying what I think is true is that the desire for sexual relations there's nothing wrong with the desire because you are a created sexual being. I'm very sexual, is what I'm saying. I'm extremely sexual. My friends say I'm one of the most sexual people they've ever met.
Yeah, I have heard that.
But I don't think that anyone can get away with saying that it's ultimately all bad for that, right?
No one's trying to, though.
No, I'm just saying
it's a straw man. But then again, the thing you're
exactly.
more likely to hear from the same crowd that says it's relationship, not religion, and we don't need all these silly rituals. Those same types of people are the ones who are well, just wait till you get married. Then you can go nuts. Trust me.
Yeah.
You are going to be a happy man once you get married. And they're not speaking of chastity at all, because the modern evangelical world does not know of chastity in marriage. They don't know. But that's what young men need, because what you really need is to learn how to control yourself.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
You need to learn. If the tongue is difficult to control, well, the
wiener's
danger
20
is
times.
similar.
Yeah.
Yes, right. I think the tongue is harder to control if you read the Bible and you take
Believe
its
it.
word for it, and
Yeah.
and you live that way. That's saying a lot. Your words are harder to control than your danger, which is definitely saying a lot. But both of them are something that you're on the hook to learn how to. What does it say? To have your vessel in honor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That type of nuanced, balanced, hey, you are the responsible party here and no one's going to tell you what that looks like. You have to journey it out. You have to find out what that looks like. You have to, it's not going to be one size fits all. That's going to be the same for how to deal with desires of the heart, emotions that come up out of nowhere, very wispy, magical, dreamlike feelings. And this is what I wanted to talk about on this episode.
You look like you're in freaking Kramer's apartment whenever he has that.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's take this pause opportunity, this breather, to acknowledge some of the super chats. You guys have been waiting patiently at the very top of the episode.
Don't say Steenie Travis said anything.
Well, we don't know who they're from until I read them. So
Okay.
why don't
Who's
you
this
just cool
next
your
one
jets?
from?
Well, we got a cool
One just came in?
at the beginning of the episode. I've been waiting to acknowledge it.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm sorry for making you wait, Steenie, but this Steenie Travis has written in and said, Justin, great combo so far. I wanted you to have this $100 as a token of my undying viewership and devotion. So not even, normally he requests like, hey, can you talk about this, whatever. Steenie, this means more than I can tell you. You have been, I think you were our first. We told my dad that he could be the first subscriber, first viewer. I've been promising him that since before the launch. And if it weren't for you, we could have actually, fulfilled that promise. But you were there to subscribe like the second that we went live. So, and I'll never forget that, and I'll never forget these generous gifts. So 2 thumbs up, man. And Colin, did you want to take the second one? There's only one other super chat so far in the episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one's from Honey Braithwaite.
No way.
He says, Colin, that hoodie is looking fire, and I really like the way that you were explaining everything that you were explaining earlier. It helped me a lot because of the way that it was. Thank you.
Ooh, someone's
Honey.
giving Steenie a run for his money. That is
Thank you, Honey. You're awesome.
Do you think that's the
And-
same Honey Braithwaite from high school, or could there even be a second one? I mean, it's pretty specific name.
Well, I mean, he was. I think he was third. Honey Braithwaite the third, but it could be.
You think I went to school with his dad? I'm not that old, am I?
Yeah, that's
Holy
right.
cow.
So we already said, what is it? It's Cursed World Baby. What else do we gotta say on this one?
Oh, dude.
That's basically a wrap.
No way. Not even close.
That's a wrap, I guess.
Way.
I guess we gotta get out of here.
Then let me punt.
You kind of took us on that John ostrich chase, and
Yeah.
that is leading us to like music, movies, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think
Let me simplify it then. Let me bring it back to what I was saying. If you've ever been a teenager and you're anything like me or you or any of our friends or anyone that we've ever been able to relate to or have any common ground with, you've had a moment where you are just filled with those youthful, like indescribable feelings. You're not necessarily chasing any particular sinful passion. You just wake up and you're ready to go. Everything's magic, to quote Tommy DeLonge. Everything. It's just run through with that energy. This is also very poetically described in some C.S. Lewis fiction. I wish I could tell you which ones, but I think he understood it. And nonfiction. When he talked about, I think in The Weight of Glory, that whenever he remembered nostalgically these poems that like really awoke his imagination, and his spirit inside him was just going all crazy nutso in a way that was impossible to describe, and just like rainbow colors in the mind and in the heart. And he was like, man, that's where it was. That was life. And I'm going to go back and read those poems. And then he read them as a grown up into his advanced years. And that's when he discovered it was not in the poems, but it only came through them. And what came through them was glory. When I read stuff like that, in my early to mid 20s, I was like, nice. That validates me, because now if I'm cruising down Route 9 in Hedgesville and going 105 miles an hour in a 55 zone, and I got the windows down and I got my freaking music, whatever it is, cranked, and I'm just being dramatic. I'm being over emotional. I'm like pouring out. I'm emanating like over hyper drama. I was acting in God's will, because that was godly, because I was experiencing glory. I could act with impunity at that point. And as I grew older, I'm sure this is like less and less accessible for people to relate to. I don't know if anyone could relate to what I just said, but that was me.
Maybe.
As like a 19-year-old. Not everybody's like that. But fast forward, now in recent years, I'll just be living a pretty even keel life, and then something will stir up. I don't want to say stir up the passions, because I'm not talking about sexual lust or greed or pride or any of those things. We're more talking about the undefined, just the embers are kicked into fire. The mojo, right. So the mojo is just going nuts.
The mojo is more of a neutral power, is what you're saying, an energy that could be and often is funneled into a sinful passion.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, you can take it that way, because if you chase it to the at the expense of, so let me just give an example that most people can probably, since we're going down that music route eventually, that first piano note of Runaway.
Yeah,
right?
we already know.
Well,
they already know.
They don't. I don't know if they would have already known, but I'm just going to over-explain if that's okay. So, yeah, they already skipped this part.
Yeah, they know. They know.
They know. Runaway, Kanye West. Ding, right? And then he drops down like, right. Right? Yeah. That's it. And then that, right? I don't need to say anything more. There's no lyrics, so it's already not telling you anything sinful. We already know the song is vindictive, or it's party rocking. It's like, yeah, it's off the chain. It's not godly. But let's take all that out. Before you ever heard a single word from that song and you first heard that piano, something, if you're like me, probably moved in your heart. Because the emotionalism, the hyper drama of it, like I said, the feeling that like, this is meaningful. I'm part of the story for listening to it. I'm in a magical world of what have you. Yeah. That is what the whole world is selling you on a silver platter. And I have a feeling that they got real good at it real quickly in like the last decade. Mm-hmm. I could list off so many examples for the indulgent young person, like teens through 20s, the indulgent, I need it to be about me. This is all going to be cringe, but it's confession time. These are my confessions. For me, when I was in my first semester of law school and I was like abusing things that I shouldn't be, and I was like trying to shirk the responsibility of being like a boring, disciplined individual, I ran the other direction. And I was also very self-important. And like I said, even if things were going bad for me, I just used that as ammunition to be over dramatic in myself, to feel sorry for myself, but also to have a chip on my shoulder and an impossible battle to fight. But you know what it really was? It was me staying up late and drinking and watching Rick and Morty, of all things. Cringe alert!
Yeah, sure.
Right?
I think Rick and Morty is. I think it's like it's cringe, but it is funny. Like it's not. I think people
first 2 or 3
completely
seasons
devalue it and be like, "Oh, I would." No.
There's a reason why it was popular.
Yeah,
I'm saying funny. First 2 or 3 seasons. I haven't watched the new stuff because it's like ultra blasphemous and it's like cringe atheist, Reddit atheist. It's really, but the first couple seasons, you're like, wow, funny, and like did hit that mark of like existential, like really trying to shove your heart and make you feel something and think about things. Those Bo Burnham specials, the like the last couple, Inside, but the one before that, where he did like a Kanye tribute toward the end. BoJack Horseman, back in the animated realm. It's all, if you're into any of those things, or let me just give like one more example. Take all that and wipe it off the table and just go back to when simpler times, early mid 2000s. You listen to like a Linkin Park album. There's a reason why. You could have zero problems in life, but you put those headphones in and you listen to that as like a ninth grader on the bus. You're transported. It speaks to the heart. It tells you that there is something to put on that brooding face about, or to just pull your hood up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it feels good to feel bad type.
100%. And not always feel bad, but feel like this massive, like the planet is losing gravity and things are like surreal in here.
Before we get into some of that, because I think the key word that you're coming up to is the N word.
Which is, we'll say it on three.
One,
two,
two,
three.
three. It's okay to say now.
Write that down.
Did you know that it's okay to say the
Kevin
N-word
already
now?
had his pen to write down the timestamp.
It is okay to say
Nihilism.
yeah. Anyway, so we're I think the word that we're arriving toward is the precious N word, right? We'll get to that in a minute.
Sort of.
But I want to go back a little bit and kind of talk about something that you were saying. So whenever it came out of your mouth, it sounded a little bit wrong. But I thought about it for a little bit. Whenever you said, me driving out, blah, 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 music cranking, driving, feeling this, blah, 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 I was living out God's will, yada, 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 because there was glory in that. Okay, I might rephrase it.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Oh, I thought you were saying that was.
No.
So
I'm saying
okay.
at that moment, I didn't really probably...
You felt
I
that in the
underexplained.
moment, or that was
Somebody gave me permission that John Eldridge's of the world's writing the desire book, saying, if you have desires, that's from God.
Well, let me still roll with it, because it's still relevant. I think there is something to that. I think there is an aspect of that is real. Our greatest ally. And that aspect is that built into this world. Oh man, this is going to be really hard to put into words. So forgive me in advance for how this is going to come out. But I pray that I will be able to articulate this in a very special way. So built into this world, there are truths. Like Christ is the truth, the fiber that is in and through and that makes up everything, right? Mm-hmm. And some of those truths pertain to natural, worldly, quote unquote, worldly, not in the negative connotation, but we live in the world. We are creatures. We are of human, physical.
There's something pertaining to this life. Yeah.
Worldly things are designed to show you and to teach you and to be the truth and to be the way that they are. God, the ultimate storyteller, created a world. Now, I'm not getting into the theology of like evil and all of that kind of stuff and where it came from and whatever, but regardless, we live currently in a world where the harder things are, the more glory there is in them, right? Mm-hmm. So think about a very easy example is when you go home at night to your cozy apartment and you fill your tummy with good food and you watch whatever's on Netflix and then you say, I'm gonna hit the sack. And then you go up the stairs. Dun, 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 dun,
Or wait,
dun,
hold on. How about I'm gonna get some shut eye. Dum 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 dum. Hello? Oh, that was close.
Psst, are you asleep?
Not anymore. All right.
Anyway.
You were saying. Sorry.
So
sometimes
you're in your cozy apartment. You walk up, you fill your tummy, you go to bed,
Right.
you sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you wake up the next day. Okay, how satisfying was all of that? If that was your day-to-day life, you do it every day,
It was
right?
like a C+ at best during.
Awesome,
Afterwards,
right?
nothing.
But you're in the lap of luxury.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now, picture camping. You hike out. Oh, this backpack is so heavy.
Oh.
Oh, my ankle.
I stepped on a rock. Ooh, ow.
Oh, what is this? I'm tired and hungry, but this place looks like it'll do. Set up your camp. There's
There's
a
a
root bed
snake in my boot.
right?
Uh-huh.
Go to sleep. Fire. You have to do a bunch of manual labor, break up the sticks and build the fire, and then you're like, oh, here's my bean stew. But then you're hungry because you hiked 5
Wait,
miles.
can you do a bean stew sound effect real quick? All right, I'm satisfied. Keep going. Here, let me get you a squab of that.
Right? But after a long day's worth of hiking, or how about this? That dinner, it's cold outside, and you've got your ramen in a styrofoam freaking cup, and you whittle some chopsticks out of sticks, and you're like, right? There is no more satisfying of a meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to sleep, you have a nasty night's sleep on a root
Yeah,
bed.
baby.
A root bed that's trying to strangle you in the middle of the night, right? And then you wake up and you just get the fire going. The coals are still hot. You get the fire going again. You make that cup of coffee and you're like, right?
Yeah.
There's glory in those things because of how hard they were, right?
Yep.
Because of
Yep.
how hard they were to achieve and attain, and like the struggle and the friction. The difficulty made those things infinitely more valuable. Literally a
Obviously.
10x, a 10x gain, a freaking 25x gain right there in value and memory making and
Yeah.
physical perception of how good those meals were when you got that cup of coffee and that ramen. This is the way that God made the world, right? There is truth in that. This isn't, again, I'm not getting into the theology of like where evil came from and whether God intended it and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
The simple fact of the matter is that we do live in a world where evil exists and hard times and discomfort and tears and struggle and sadness and death and all of these things exist. And yet, Christ's redemptive quality takes on that stuff and does what he does. He do what Christ do. He do what Christ do, right? He does that
I do
thing
what I
that
do,
makes
what I
it
do.
like makes it more glorious. And so here's the thing. The other things in life that are like that are, it is truly a glory for a man to be a big, strong, powerful man and beat somebody else and best somebody else in some sort of a competition, or to crush the skull of some bad guy, or to like have a quiver full of arrows, meaning a family full of children that are growing up to be
Yeah.
other strapping young men
Little
and good little
gremlins.
housemakers and all this kind of stuff. That is a glory, right?
Right.
But they're worldly things.
But I see what you're saying. Those are all hard fought, and they do give a glorious
And the
feeling.
same thing with the vitality. This is what I was getting at to say what you
okay.
say.
Okay.
I think that there's an aspect of what you said that is true, because the vitality and a teenage boy, a 16-year-old boy, is exuding that high energy, like life force is just like splooging out of him, right? Every single 4 times a day.
No. Okay.
Anyway, but seriously, in his day-to-day life, he's just like exuding high energy and vitality. I think there's glory in that. And then obviously we're like us as stupid American dumb teenagers get corrupt and all this kind of stuff, and it goes the wrong ways. But I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with that vitality that makes
But it
you
is
act
dangerous.
out. It's dangerous,
Right.
But so is fire, and so is
Well,
God,
that's
and
my
so
point.
is
Okay.
lions and
All
stuff.
right.
But there's glory in all of those things.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. I think that God gives us a deposit. I'm just gonna skip to a very dumbed down, boiled down version of my best wisdom that I have thus far, which is not great. I'm still on a journey, and I'm okay. I've learned to be content with
You're
it.
wise. You're wise. So precious.
And go, if God required of me like to know all this stuff, then I don't know. Then I would have the tools to know it. But so far, I've only had deep questions, and it's always been a little like a rock in my shoe, man, for a long time. But it's been okay. Anyway,
It's okay.
It's you know, I got a nice pension out of it. I got a nice pension out of it. I got a real.
I got a really nice pension out. My wife and I met this guy
Yeah.
from New York, and he literally said, I worked on it for the train company for 35 years. And I was like, how was that? He's like, I got a nice pension out of it. And then he walked away, and Ashley was like, I've waited my entire life to hear a real, genuine New Yorker say, I got a really nice pension. And yeah, anyway, that's all beside the point here. What I'm thinking, the best that I have so far is that I think it's a deposit. God gives us a deposit in the teen years. The feeling of, I just fell in love with for the first time. I feel that need to go 30 miles over the speed limit for no reason. Not going to get there any faster. It's just I got a lead foot because I'm 17 years old and I feel invincible and all those things. And the feeling, even music that's not that good. Well, in 2007, it was pretty freaking good because my brain was this sponge that just wanted to take in art. Okay, I was listening to Angels and Airwaves' first album when it came out. It came out in like 2007. I was listening in 2008, 2009. It's this big stadium sound like Galaxy Gladiator.
I love that
night and the sky and your dreams and it's magic. And God, I hate this war. Why do we have to kill each other? And it's magic.
That I could listen to now and be like, no, it's kind of when I was 15 years old. That's a different story. I'm going to say that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, though. Yeah, there's a real thing in there. You said emotionalism. Albert Einstein's first album, Emotionalism.
Yeah.
The Avett Brothers.
Right.
Avett Brothers.
The
Oh,
Avett
what a great
Brothers.
freaking album. That one does that to me. That one
likes
does
the-
that to me. I
Colin
ride
likes the
around on the back
bluegrass.
roads.
Yeah.
Drive around on the back roads that are doing this. Going a little bit too fast. Slamming on that brake.
Thank you. I know you're just doing that
but
to even the scales. You did
listening
your
to
little voices.
emotionalism. Oh, I open my door and here's what. Right, really freaking good. But,
But the whole point is, it hits you that way so that when things taper off, you still have deeply planted in your heart like a seed. A seed must be planted and die that it bear fruit. And so the seed of the glory of eternity is planted when you're 15 years old.
Wow.
It dies. You go, oh no, I'm depressed. Oh shit, it's the cops. Okay? Guess what? That's the thing. You're supposed to remember the DNA of the seed is still deep within you, but now you got to chase it. Now you got to chase that glory, and you have to
interesting.
discern
I
what
really
is.
like this take where it's
I'm just
leading.
making it up. So basically, yeah, you.
It's a good. It
is.
Who are we to say
Because-
we're right, wrong?
and-
We're
but-
just coming up with it, baby.
Yeah, and when you take of the fruit
With
of
the
what
driving
you,
crooner, baby.
if you pursue
You ready to
that,
miss it?
what? Yeah, made me miss it. What?
It's just noises
Don't
to cut
blink.
you off.
You might miss it.
Life comes at you fast.
Recommendations
Life
for
moves pretty fast.
don't let it miss you. Don't miss it. Life moves fast.
I do
You
have a
bl-
test this morning. That's not bullshit.
What is that?
Ferris Bueller. It's when he's in his shower monologue because his parents.
I
left
don't.
him.
I need to rewatch that. Okay, listen. basically, when you're out of those years, the seed has been planted and died. Now you just have nothing but soil, and you're going, oh, I'm 22 years old. How come I don't feel the same way as I did? And you still got some dying left to do, because by the time you're 26, boy, if you're still grasping onto that, it's sand slipping through your fingers.
26. Try 28. You ain't seen nothing yet, kid.
Oh, you had to wake up at 6 a.m.? Try working construction.
I had to wake up at 5:30.
I woke up at 5:45. I woke up at 5:45.
I wake up
PM yesterday. So what I'm trying to say is, that's my view on it, is no, there's nothing, you don't have to take this puritanical view of like, oh, that every feeling that you have that feels imaginative or pleasant or lively is the work of the devil in your heart. I'm not a spiritual father. I'm not a saint. I'm not a wise sage at all. This is not anything advice. This is my best wisdom so far, because I think that the average person out there needs to hear it. Because there's young men who want to do right by God, by their conscience, by their future families, by their present families, by themselves, their own soul, and they need to know, is there a line that I don't go over? Am I just tell me now, give it to me straight. Am I destined to be dry in spirit? Am I prohibited by my conscience and by the commands of God to not enjoy, to be passionless? What does that mean, right? Because the monks, like you were saying earlier, not everyone's called to the monastic life. The monks know, they have learned to fall in love with eschewing all of the passions. They want to become passionless, but it's not an end unto itself. Yeah. No, they are actually chasing something that will provide an ecstasy that does supersede.
It's still this is
like the prayer of the heart
joke that we do. It's it's funny to think about. On this earth, in this lifetime, we're called to be selfless. So what? For what? So that you can what? Get a better next life. That's
a
pretty
lot of
selfish.
Funny skits
That's pretty selfish if you ask me.
Right.
If I wanted to really be selfless, I would be as selfish as possible in this life, because I know the next life
there'll be more room in heaven for me.
I'm just thinking that
next. You're just doing this. Yeah.
Anyway,
no, I get it.
No, but it is funny, because it really is like, there's nothing wrong with looking out for number one.
To a certain,
looking out for you. I'm trying to secure my treasures in heaven. You know what I'm saying? That's selfish, in a sense.
Yeah, because people who act like
just playing the game a different way.
If it's selfless,
you're just learning the real rules.
Right, but
everybody's playing the game. Some people are just playing by different rules, and they're playing the rules to the short term.
I wish I had that Pilgrim's Way book, because he told a guy, oh man, it was a perfect passage. I wish I had it right here. This guy came to him, the narrator of the book, who is an anonymous writer. He lived in the 1800s and was a pilgrim in Russia, and he lived many different places and learned many different things, and he was all searching to understand ceaseless prayer and the prayer of the heart and internal praying and such. And he was a very pious man. And he came upon another guy who was a forester in the forest. He lived in the forest and oversaw the forest until the season when they came to fell all the trees. And then they all had to leave. So anyway, he's in there, and he told this man told his story that when he was younger, he would cheat people, and he would swear falsely, and he would be after the women and stuff and whatever. And then he heard somebody, a traveling preacher, come and preach to him about the horrors of hell. And so he got really scared, and he said, okay, I'm going to give it all up. I'm going to live in the forest and just pray all the time. But when he was telling the narrator this, he was saying, but the thing is, what if it's all for nothing? What if, what if I go back? What if eventually I fall away and go back to my old ways? Or what if I die and find out it was for nothing, etc.? And he was real black-pilled about it. Like normal stuff that people think. And the author of this book told him the wisdom of the fathers that he was reading in the different parts of the Philokalia, that the man who avoids sin for fear of hell already lives the way of bondage to fear. And the one who does it to avoid sin and lives that way just to attain the glories of heaven does it as like a paid servant or a hireling, right? An employee of God. But what God truly wants for us and the way of salvation is to learn to be a son and to do it for the pride and the love of the Father. Okay? So basically that takes it away from being selfish or selfless, like, oh, I'm going to do things just to deny myself just for its own sake. That actually doesn't make sense internally.
And the prodigal son came back with the intention, like it was still better
Of
than
being a
nothing.
hireling. Right.
He wanted
That's
to
a
be
better
God's
step.
employee.
Right. You don't want to slave is worse.
And I don't think
slave to the passions.
I feel like he'll accept you, and he'll be like, okay, that's where you are. Like, that's what you're doing.
Right.
But I want you to.
It's not your destiny. It's
Yeah.
not your ultimate destiny.
It's very interesting. Wow.
It's a lot to think about, and I didn't cover it
No,
exhaustively.
that was awesome. That blew my mind. I just didn't react. I just didn't give you in real time
I
feedback.
just perpetually feel like I'm only half completing thoughts, but if you think it's coming across good.
Dude,
Hey, buddy.
I don't know half
Believe
the
you
words
me.
you just said, but it sounded good.
Can you make a note I don't do the construction worker anymore? I don't want to do that character no more.
How
I
many
didn't like-
times
I
has
didn't
it
like
been
that
this
one.
episode?
Yeah, no, it's bad. I don't like any of my characters actually lately. I'm rusty, but
Um,
okay, hear me out. What about a construction worker? His name is Rusty, but he's a nice enough guy. I'm a construction worker, nice enough guy. Ah, crap. Yeah, can you make sure
cut that out. So to sum it all up, I think that there's glory intertwined in the worldly way things are done, even though you might see them as like a fallen state type stuff or whatever. Like I don't think it's a curse, but it's like because of Adam and Eve or whatever, we get fruits by the sweat of our brow and all of that kind of stuff, right? And yet, even like it was a grace to us to allow that to be a satisfying thing. You know what I mean? Maybe that wasn't the intention. Maybe it was the intention for some other way of the world. But in God's providence, He made even the curse satisfying for us to work out our to work. You know what I mean? It's a joy to toil sometimes.
Yeah, or at least you get it. So,
At the end of building a fence, you want like there's some glory in doing this and then this,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you still
And
he
you
didn't wanna,
you earned it.
Adam didn't forfeit for us any of the glory or the satisfaction forever. It's just maybe when he walked with God, it was like that, and it flowed through him without having to like refuel. It was perpetual state. He had the prayer of the heart at all times. He knew God perfectly, or was getting to know God progressively, but
it's
in
the same
perfection.
with
Even
things
his
that-
progress, right? So his progress wasn't complete, but his progress itself was perfect. And then we're fallen, but we're not totally separated from that experience. We just have to walk the narrow path to get it. So building the fence, raising the family, saying
But
no
even
to
the
your,
bad things, because those are all relatively neutral. But even terrible things, tragedies, and like self-inflicted pain, and all of this stuff. Again, by God's grace, He allowed it to be deeper. Repentance is sucks. And humility sucks, and it hurts, and it stings, and it feels bad, but there's glory in it, and afterward it feels good. And it wouldn't if it didn't get that low, you wouldn't understand the depth of it and the gravity of it and the seriousness of it. And like looking back at your worst mistakes, it's like obviously on paper and emotions wise, you'd be like, yeah, I would have rather not done that, right?
yeah.
And it's better for people to not make terrible mistakes. But even with terrible mistakes, you look and you're like, shoot, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't understand or be able to appreciate the things that I appreciate now. And it's like a joy now
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's something special in that. And it's like, we didn't just get thrown to the wolves. It's like, He's like, all right, now it's just expert mode. But with expert mode comes these extra special.
Let me tell you the image that pops into my head,
bonuses.
which is also what I just read in this book. You guys would love it. We'll official shout out. I think it's called The Pilgrim's Way.
Say that again, but in construction voice.
So you guys are going to love this book. I work construction. Thanks. Is that good?
Thanks.
The Way of the Pilgrim. Anonymous author. The translation I have is by a guy named like Houston Smith. And yeah, it was in the 1800s. Look into it for yourself. It's good. It's pretty like quintessential, but I didn't know that until recently. I got it and I've been reading it.
So how do we? Oh, you're about to say something.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. So okay, this is just going to be the image of kind of what you're talking about, of even the lowly things. I'll try to simplify it. There is a story in the book. The author, the anonymous narrator, wanted to go to liturgy on a Sunday, and it was probably like a Friday evening at this point. He wants to go to liturgy on Sunday at this church, but it's 20 miles away, and he's going to have to walk it. So he decides he's going to start out to walk. The thing is, it's really, really treacherous weather, snow and rain all over the place. So he has to walk in the evening and find somewhere to sleep, and then walk in the day, and then rest, and then get there. And he's one of his arms is completely debilitated, and he only carries a couple pieces of like dried bread in his knapsack and 2 books, the Bible and the Philokalia, which I think what is referenced there is something that's an abridged. I don't know. I thought the Philokalia was like 5 volumes, and it's a whole big thing in modern times. But all I'm saying is a book of the Holy Fathers and a Bible in his knapsack, and then just some dried bread. So it's a treacherous journey, and most of the way to this church, like let's say he's going the rest of the way on Sunday morning, and then he has to cross this river, and he gets halfway across the river, and then the ice collapses, and he gets into it, and he's down up to his waist in like freezing cold water. So he gets past the river and trudges the rest of the several miles to the rest of the 20 miles altogether to church, and then stands through 3 hours of church liturgy, matins plus liturgy. And he enjoys it the whole way because the narrator, this whole book is about learning about the prayer of the heart and how to pray ceaselessly and what that experience is like and the journey that it took him on. Highly recommend the book. But basically,
What's it called again?
The Pilgrim's Way.
The Way of a Pilgrim.
The Way of a Pilgrim. Okay, so afterwards, he has to ask the caretaker of the church, like, can you put me up somewhere? Because I made it here. I got nothing, and I gotta rest. And he said, yeah, there's this chamber over here. And he lays on like a kind of like a pallet bed or something. Well, he goes to sleep. He wakes up the next morning, and he can't move his legs at all. He's totally paralyzed. And so he lays there for like another day or two, still praying completely, and he's really not that bothered by it. And eventually the church caretaker comes by and he's like, we got to get you out of here. I'm sorry. Like, it's going to perturb people. It's going to scandalize them if you're here for one reason or another. He helps get him out, like drag him out to the front and puts him on the street in front of the church. And then for another 2 days, he's laying there. He can't do anything about it. And most people pass him up, almost everyone, even churchgoers. They just don't even notice him. And then a peasant comes by, like a Russian peasant, and tells him, like, you seem like you're in some trouble here. Your legs don't work. And I can help you because I know how to cure you. But what can you do for me? And he's like, I don't know. I have nothing. And he's like, all right. What's in the bag? And he's like, it's literally worthless to you. I have a couple pieces of dried bread that I've been living on, and I have a couple of old books. And he's like, all right. Well, what if you work for me on my property for like a summer? And he's like, even if you fix my legs, this arm here has been withered for my whole life, and this other one is not very good. And he's like, well, what do you do for work? And he's like, I basically all I can do is read and write. And he goes, okay, right. That's good. My son, he can read, but he's not that good at writing, so I'll have you teach him how to write. And he goes, okay. So he literally helps him up and basically carries him all the way to his house and puts him up. And then that night, he gathers up all these bones from like his farm or his land or whatever, like old animal bones, chicken bones, all types of different like bones that are half decaying. They're like putrid. And he puts them all together and gets them in like a clay pot and turns the pot upside down with like a thing underneath it, and or like a small hole in the pot, and then puts a jar underneath that, like in a hole in the ground, and then paints the outside of it with something flammable, and then lights it on fire, and then keeps feeding the fire so that the bones are being heated up inside. And so after doing this for like a long time, he takes it off, and this jar that was in the ground, like about a pint, has been filled with this like dark red brown liquid, and he calls it tar, like tar from the bones. And the bones themselves now have been turned into this like pearly, half translucent, whatever. They're just bone now with nothing in them. And all that came out of the bones, he told him, you paint that all over your legs 5 times a day. And he did. He said, okay, I'll do that. And after the first day, he could wiggle his toes and move his feet. And after like the second day, he was able to like extend his knees a little bit. And after 3 or 5 days, his legs, he could start to get up and walk around with a little cane. But he did it 5. By the end of the week, he's basically almost better. And after like 2 weeks, he's completely back to as good as he's ever been. First of all, amazing that guy knew the cure. Second of all, it spoke to him through this physical world that God built in everything that we would need. All of the creation is designed for us, even the most decaying, putrid bits of it. Old, gross, dead animal bones have within them all that is needed to return life to the half dead. He was literally, the bottom half might as well have been dead. But the filthiest, diseased parts of the world had within them the miracle of the cure. Now, I've been telling this story for so long, I can't remember what it pertains to or what you brought up.
Bro, it was so compelling.
It was good,
it
right?
Matters. I don't think
We
it
don't
matters.
think it matters.
Hey, if you care, go back to where
Rewind,
before.
have a look.
If you care, I don't. I think we call it a wrap. The N word that I was thinking about earlier was nihilism.
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 I was
we were
way
going to
off.
talk about nihilism. We didn't
I was
get
way
to
off.
it,
I thought we were going to
so
talk about something else.
We ended up talking about the spice of life, baby.
Yeah,
Baby. Right? So nihilism we
Right,
might get to
you
on
are.
another one. What did you call this? Emotionalism and just like high
Yeah,
passion, but not the loaded word.
it is
passion.
the word. When you drew the
when
distinction
I say
earlier.
passion, it's like
Yes.
it doesn't
Right.
necessarily
it's
mean
passion.
the passions.
The passions, right. So this is why I think this should be the world is cursed, even though I know it's cursed world problems. Okay, so all of our other episodes are going to be like video games is cursed, the internet's cursed, books, music, whatever. This, I think I'm content with the world is cursed, part 1.
Okay.
Because we are talking about worldly things, but that's a two-sided coin. Worldly in the sinful way, and worldly as in just pertaining to this earthly
Yeah.
life that God's given us. Part 2 of the world is cursed, and maybe there could be a part 3.
Earthly is good.
Yeah.
Earthly really does do the trick.
Right. But we're not talking about Earth is cursed because that's our environmentalism episode. But World is Cursed Part 2, maybe we can get into nihilism because that is its own special brand of what you said earlier. It feels good
It's
to
more
feel bad.
it's more getting into the nitty-gritty of how we of the ways of the battle plan of the enemy. You know what I
Right.
mean? How he infiltrates.
In the meantime, you got any final thoughts? Your current event, Napoleon?
I don't have a current event, and our current events have really bitten us in a butt because of our business in a butt.
Business in the butt. Business in the butt. Business in the...
Have really bitten us in the butt because we're so late at uploading these. But
Yeah.
I
by the
will
way.
say, go ahead and post in the comments what you think about the new lighting setup. If this is cool, you want it to stay this way. So it's like a cool dark, the dark world.
Well, we just did this because Halloween's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Halloween
It's our
20...
special Halloween episode, but if you like it,
Yeah.
let us know. We might keep it this way,
Yeah.
which is hilarious because we're not going to see these comments for months. So, you know
Who's
what
to
do.
say?
We may just keep it this way anyway.
Yep. Bop that subscribe. Bop the subscription.
Share it to your friends. Here's the thing. We don't really do a whole bunch of the showmanship thing because we're just not used to it, but I'm okay with it. So if you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. If you and subscribe.
Go
because
into
it
the
really
comments
helps
and
the
like
channel.
each of those too.
Go into
Like
the comments. Try to make the comments like a fun place to be. Chat
Comment
with
on
each
the
other.
comments.
If you think that you have a friend, family member, an aunt maybe who would appreciate,
Who would like to host the show?
who would like to, if you have any hot aunts that would like to be on the show,
Host the show.
Send them our way.
Yeah, if you have a
Host the show
cousin
with
or
us.
like a baby that you think you could do a better job at this, just send
Yeah.
them.
If you have an aunt, send her my way. And no, but seriously, let your friends know. Tell the world. retweet, revine everything, and just get it out there, man.
Don't forget, if there's clips from this that you're seeing on X.com, re-X those for us. The wider the reach, the
Re-X
better.
those. We're gonna actually be putting clips on Vine, and we're gonna be putting clips on
MySpace,
on
Friendster.
Musically,
Mhm.
and I think that's everything, right?
Yeah, I'll try to get something together for Yahooligans. That's
We're gonna
not going to
have,
play, actually. No one listening to this is going to know what that means.
Yahooligans. What is that? What is that video thing with the? It's like World Star or something like that.
Yeah, check WorldStar and eBombs World. And addictinggames.com. Thank me later.
You'll thank me later.
Yeah, you can thank me now.
Best addicting game. Go. Balloons Tower Defense 4.
Not like the parking game. It's a lot harder than parking in real life. Have you ever played like a parking related game? Kevin has.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
Scared me to drive. I was like,
Yeah.
"Is it really this hard?"
I don't even want to get a license at this point. All right.
And that's a wrap.
We'll
It's
call
been
it a
a
wrap.
cursed world.
Yeah, it's been the Cursed World Problems podcast.
Thanks for listening.